the reason for that is it's not just the product or the service that you have to sell. It's yourself.
Yeah.
It's your vision. You got to sell your vision every freaking day.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Meller, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high-performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, we welcome in founder and CEO of Pearce Bespoke, Nathan Pearce. And having built a high-growing men's tailoring company where the focus is very much on looking good to feel good, Nathan's story and mindset highlights the need for us to roll up our sleeves daily so as to better identify who we are not, and ready ourselves to outwork those around us, all in pursuit of growth. Hey guys, as we get started here with the episode, I want to just take 1 minute of your time to make a request for you to subscribe and rate the show. For our show to be easily discovered by other potential listeners, we need our current listeners, that's you, to take the time to not only subscribe, but to also rate the show. Whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, whatever platform of choice, there are typically ways to be rating the show. So go ahead and click something like that 5th star and be sure to take that additional time to leave a comment or two about why it is you enjoy listening to the Growth Ready podcast. Your efforts on this will allow our show to be more discoverable, which means we're going to find more listeners and continue to have that significant impact on the community of human performance and personal development that I know you are all benefiting from by being listeners to this show. Please go ahead, take the time, subscribe, rate the show today. Hey, and while you're at it, why don't you share it with a few people as well? I appreciate you guys. Let's get to the interview.
Okay, well, I am really excited to be doing this in person with Nathan Pearce and having the opportunity to get to know the story that is Pearce Bespoke. And one thing that I've been so fortunate to do this year with the podcast is more of this in person, bringing some sort of a highlight to Baton Rouge. We've had the luxury on this show for now almost 300 episodes to talk to people from around the world. And it's beautiful for me to come right back home. Here I am in Baton Rouge and just say, hey, what is it we have going on here that is growth oriented? What can we learn from this city? And who better to do it with than some of our local entrepreneurs, CEOs? So, Nathan, before we go any further, I need you to answer the question that I have everybody else answer as we get started here. What does it mean to you to be growth ready?
Growth ready to me means seeing yourself out in the future. So every single day, and this is going to sound crazy, but at some point in my day, I time block just vision time. It's time for me to be able to allocate my energy into nothing other than where do I want to be in the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. Mm-hmm. It's already pre-mapped out. So we run on EOS. And it's a few minutes a day for me to just look at it, remind myself, where are we going and why? So growth ready for me means taking myself out of the day and putting myself into the future of what does the future of this organization at Pearce Bespoke look like? Mm-hmm. What team members is it? What resources do we have? Where are we? How many offices? How many locations franchise-wise do we have? So growth ready means not getting sucked into the day-to-day every day. Mm-hmm. It means looking down the road at all times. And I think that's just part of being the visionary is you've got to get buy-in from your team if you're going to lead them.
That's right. That's right. What a great place to start, because here we are in person and you're immediately shifting the focus into a time much further on in the future. And what I love about that is that you starting out here in the future and how you respond to that question, what I would love for you to maybe help our listeners do is, where did that work start when it came to just simply getting more comfortable about setting your future, setting that idea, that goal that to so many listening to this right now will be like, Nathan, that's the scary part right there. I don't want to, like, you're telling me about growth, ambition, and all this. Like, it's exciting, don't get me wrong, but man, it's scary. So how did you go through that process of simply finding comfort and maybe finding clarity in what the future could even possibly look like?
I think what's crazy about that is how regularly I pivot to what the future looks like. It's not necessarily locking in stone where this company is headed. It's being able to pivot when you need to be able to pivot. And I think what would shock a lot of people is how many pivots there have been in the short future of Pearce Bespoke franchising and the growth that we've had. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are so set in their ways that they miss potential opportunities, and vice versa.
Yep.
I call it chasing shiny objects.
Yep.
So a lot of visionaries and entrepreneurs also have an issue with new opportunity arises. I've got to pounce on it and go grab it. And what happens is sometimes you can lose focus of where you're going. And being a really good entrepreneur, the ones that I've been around and spent a lot of time with, especially the guys here in Baton Rouge that I respect, that I think you've had the pleasure of interviewing, they are very good at finding the happy middle ground between the two. And we talked about this before it started, but it's why you need to surround yourself with the right people. You always need to be learning, reading. I try to start a new book the second that we put one down and try to evolve as much as I can. But, you know, I'm obviously far from perfect. And I do think trusting my gut is a big part of it.
Yeah.
You know, knowing when to do a slight pivot has been lots of businesses that I've started over the years, lots of employees that I've had the pleasure of managing throughout the years. And I think you've got to have both. You've got to be able to know when to do a pivot when it's not working and then go full speed ahead. And you've got to be able to get the buy-in from the team around you to go, hey guys, this is where we're going now. And I think that's what leadership's all about.
Something that immediately speaks to me in that response is that the trusting in the gut. Like, we hear this term all the time, and it's like, what is that feeling like? How can you just trust your gut? But then you surrounded that insight with a couple of just acknowledgments of, you know, I've learned some lessons here from trying this idea. I've worked with different people and they've challenged me in this different way. Talk to us a little bit about how one forms this trust that you speak of when it comes to trusting your gut.
Yeah, experiences. So a lot of it for me, unfortunately, is learning the hard way. I'm one of those hard-headed guys that if I could just learn what people around me have said not to do, my life would have been so much easier. But
no stories though.
Exactly. No stories to show for it. And I don't think you learn from winning. You might learn a little, but that's not where the learning and the gut instinct and the trust comes from. I think it's from the losses. And what I've gotten really good at, I know what I suck at and I know what I'm good at. What I've gotten really good at is being able to take the losses on the chin and not letting it bother me. Instead, it's how can I learn from this? How can I get better? How can I not make the same mistake twice? And unfortunately, and I try to teach all of my franchisees this across the country and my sales reps, we have hundreds now across the country. And I do a daily coaching call with them right now in a new project that we've just recently launched. And one of the things I try to teach them is it's okay to lose. It's okay to fail a little bit. Just don't do it twice. Learn from it, because you're going to learn more from that than you ever will the monster sale or the monster account that you book or the big B2B partnership that you set up. You've got to be able to learn from those losses and not let them bother you. Not lose sleep over them. Right? Just learn from it.
You'll forgive me because I tend to do this sometimes where I gravitate towards the fact that you chose a specific word. And so often I'll hear people share the sentiment that you just shared around using the term failure. Like, it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. You went with the word loss. And I'm just really interested by that, because the truth is, in terms of human behavior, we are very much, we don't want to experience loss. We actually will do nothing in order to not then suffer loss. We prefer to be still, commit to nothing, and therefore we obviously can't win, but we're at least avoiding loss in that process as well. And so what I love about you using that word loss, because almost 95% of our guests will always use the term fail. They'll lead with this term fail. And here you are now having these coaching calls on a daily basis, talking to your talking to your franchisees, talking to your salespeople, and just saying it's okay to lose as long as you don't do it twice in a row. And I think that is a part of the failure discussion, the loss discussion that we also don't discuss enough. It's like some people will put it like, just keep failing, man. It's great to fail. Like you learn so much. And it's like, okay, but at some point you got to win. At some point you got to win. And so I'm just even curious, when you look at how you've gotten to this point, how have you slowly found greater comfort with losses, with failures as you've gone through this?
I love comparing business to sports. Big sports fan, played in college, played all three sports in high school, basketball, baseball, football. And I think one thing that you can take away from the world of athletics and sports and the greatest competitors of all time is how many losses they've had, whether it's batting averages, slumps for hitters, major championship losses, Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school team or middle school team. I think those losses are important. And there's one or two ways that you can let that define you. The first way is to quit. And I think the only way you truly fail is through quitting. The other is through losing and getting better and improving. And I think life, if nothing else, is all about constant improvement. And how long does it take to get you to where you want to go? Not will you get to where you want to go? So I think that's what it's all about, is not letting it define you, dusting yourself off, and getting back to work again. And for me, I think one of my biggest fears in life is waking up one day on my deathbed and going, you left so much on the table. How many more people could you have affected? How many more leaders could you have built? How much more could you have done? And that's something that, plays into my vision, plays into why I do what I do.
And I find it interesting that you, by framing it as more as a loss, we get to frame it more as a result, as an outcome that can maybe be assessed, that we can discuss. There's something about this term failure, which I don't know if people don't find comfort in it, but I'm in complete agreement with you here in the work I do today and in my previous work in athletics. Okay, what can we learn from the loss? And when we categorize it in that moment, we're saying this is a result, this is an outcome that came from a series of behaviors and processes, however you want to put it. What can we go and discuss in that vein and come back to? I
also think the only way to improve and recover from a loss and learn from it is to reflect on it. I think there's a lot of times where you take a loss and you just move on to the next thing really quickly. And the problem with that, in my opinion, is that you don't learn from it. So there has to be some time to reflect, and it's hard to do it on your own. That's why surrounding yourself with the right people will help you do that. One of the things that we try to do, kind of back to my coaching calls every day with my sales reps and my closers and my franchisees, is I go over a part on this call called objections, obstacles, and issues. And I give an open floor mat, over like an open floor, for them to talk about it for a second of, okay, talk to me about yesterday. What happened that worked? What happened that didn't? Where was an issue? Where was an objection? I want to be able to have them reflect on it for a second and then maybe coach them up on how we can avoid it in the future or improve it. And what's cool about that is we have a lot of people on that call. So my hope is, even though the person that's going to learn the most from it is the person that took the loss and then got coached up, but everyone else on that call hopefully will at least hear it and go, oh man, that's something that I can avoid for my fitting tomorrow, or my appointment tomorrow, or my cold outreach tomorrow. No, it's encouraging to hear the way you're structuring not only your company, but in doing it this way, you're creating it as more of a community. It's like you're giving your employees the opportunity, your franchisees the opportunity to be part of a community. But even if it's not them being directly affected, they're being in some way impacted. That's the hope. And look, we are nowhere near where we want to go. Not at all satisfied of where we are today. Don't get me wrong. We've had explosive growth. But we have a long way to go, and the community is exactly what we're trying to build. My hope is, without me in a coaching call every day, can they lean on each other? Can they turn to the leaders of the organization that are also on the call that are having more success than them to be able to pick their brain and get feedback from them directly? 100%. That's the goal. Well, before you created all the successes that you have today and the community that you have around you, I'd love to see if we can find some sort of aha moment in your journey of where maybe you did go it alone. Maybe you did learn the hard way,
And you mentioned there a series of different ventures that you maybe tried that didn't necessarily work out. So let's go back a little bit here now and just talk. What were some of those formative years like? Where was it that you feel as though this perspective that you now have, where was the catalyst for this? Where was the genesis for being in this place that you find yourself today?
Yeah. So what's hilarious is I get two questions a lot when I'm talking to new candidates that are interested in the franchise or new people that I'm bringing onto the executive team for interviews. And it's, why in the world are you in Baton Rouge? Not at all the fashion capital in very many people's eyes, right? And the second one is, why in the world is a 35-year-old the founder and CEO of an old school custom tailoring concept of all things? Don't really fit, neither one of them, right?
Sure.
It's kind of weird. And the first story that I tell is what I call the founder story of how I got into this business. And I actually started my first clothing company with a business partner right out of college, right before I graduated. My dad always probably thought I was going to come home and take over the auction business or help him run it and make it a family business there in Birmingham. And he called me and was trying to prepare me to come home. And I said, I can't come home. I'm not coming home. He was like, what are you talking about? And I said, I started a t-shirt company. And as you can imagine, the reaction wasn't great. It was like, what are you talking about? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And we started that company with $2,000 and we ended up doing just shy of 2 million our first year.
Wow.
And my dad was like, go after it, go get it. And we did something even crazier at the end of the first year. And I knew I was in a position to where if I was ever going to take big chances and swing for the fences, it was then, right? No family, no kids, not a lot of responsibility, no bills. Just go big. And that was my mindset. And I bought a factory at 21. And it was the old LL Bean factory in South Mississippi. And my idea was all these old cut and sew operators, they were unemployed when NAFTA came in and all the jobs went overseas. They all lived there still. They were just unemployed. My idea was I didn't know shit about manufacturing, but they do. And I could rehire them, put them back to work, and lean on them and their knowledge and experience to do a good job. So grew my t-shirt brand vertically and controlled the quality control, supply chain. And we just scaled from there, just one step in front of the other. And by the time I turned 22, we had over 100 employees that worked in the factory in Mississippi. Basically put the whole town back to work. And what started with t-shirts, I found out that they used to make the polos for LL Bean.
Gotcha.
I'm like, well, crap, man.
Come on now.
Let's buy the equipment and let's start making some polos.
Right.
And so we got into polos. And then I found out they made the flannel dress shirts, the wovens for LL Bean. Bought the equipment, we moved it in, and we opened up a men's dress shirt line. And it just kind of kept growing from t-shirts to polos to dress shirts. And we were doing e-com. We were wholesaling it by year 2. Went on Shark Tank year 2. Got a deal with Mark Cuban and a verbal agreement with Mark Cuban. And that's a whole nother story that we can talk about for like 3 hours. But anyway, it was supposed to be the greatest moment of all time. And unfortunately, didn't pan out that way. It was a pretty crappy experience at the end that we had to learn from. But, you know, ended up selling out of the company. I just realized that I wasn't a manufacturing guy. Like my dream wasn't to work in an old crappy metal building, managing 100 cut and sew operators. I love building businesses, scaling, finding new ways to generate revenue, product development, marketing. Like that was my world. That's what I loved. So I ended up selling out of that company, basically walking away from it. So I could go chase the next thing and build the next one. And this old man called me and he goes, I was calling to see what you're going to do now that you got out of, you know, your woven shirt company. Because I used to make shirts for him. He was a traveling tailor. And the guy goes, you should get into the suiting business. I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about suits. You're nuts. I'm not getting into the suiting business. And he said, well, I'll teach it to you if you want. And I ended up spending 3 months on the road with this old man, traveling tailor from New York. And he was like 80. And every day we'd go to appointments, attorneys, bankers, realtors, politicians, pro athletes. And he'd carry his little leather briefcase with him everywhere. And we'd go into appointments. He'd open it. He'd lay out all these fabrics and buttons and liners on their desk. And he would guide them through the custom clothes buying process. So what goes with what, measure them up, and then they pay him up front. And I was like, there is no way this is a business. There's no way. There's no inventory, no retail store, no overhead, big margins. Like he just had it down. On paper, it was the perfect model. And I remember thinking I could do something with this and it's cool and fun and I can scale this. So met my now wife who went to LSU. We now have 2 little girls together.
There you go.
And when I got back from that trip, I said, I'm getting in the suiting business. And the joke became, if I could sling suits in the swamps of Louisiana, anybody could sell suits anywhere, and I could teach them how to do it. And that was how I got started.
Man, I love it. And there's going to be some funny connections here too. But before we go there, for me, what I'm hearing in that story is it's not about figuring out direction and figuring out who you are. It's being willing to go figure out who you're not.
Oh, 100%.
And like that is so powerful, man. Like to be able to just say, because it's so hard, like entrepreneurship on the surface. You know, we've had a lot of entrepreneurs on this show, specifically in the last couple of years since I really have dove into entrepreneurship myself. And the one thing that we always end up hitting at some point is just like, listen, on the surface, entrepreneurship looks amazing. I get my own schedule. I get this and all this kind of thing. It's just like, wow, that sounds awesome. Did you know that all of that, to get to that point, requires so much work, so much discovery, so much sacrifice, all these different things. And for you to be able to have, and for me, just listening to it based on just life moments and the age that you were, like I'm sure it sucked at the time, but what a luxury that was to get that lesson at that age.
So I tell this all the time. One of the craziest things about being in the manufacturing business in your 20s is, in the world of manufacturing, it literally teaches you not to sweat the small stuff. And the reason for that is, one thing goes wrong when you own a factory, everyone behind it gets delayed. Everyone, right? Everything's queued up.
Yep.
And I outsold the capacity 5 years in advance. We'd already hired everybody.
Right.
So when we had a machine breakdown, when we had the thread not get ordered on accident, when we had a storm roll through and power goes out, it wasn't one problem.
Yep.
It was everything was a problem.
Yep.
And everyone got a phone call from me going, hey, sorry, you're going to be 6 weeks late on your order. And then I get chewed out for an hour because how dare I, right? Yeah. Like, that's manufacturing. Yeah. And there's every day a million problems, every day. And it causes a ripple effect through everything that you do. So in my 20s, as bad as it sucked, I learned not to sweat little things, not to sweat the small stuff. And what a luxury in your 20s to be able to learn that lesson. And now I take things in stride when bad news comes way more than I did early on.
Yeah. I think, you know, there's a lot of people listening to this who have long outlived their 20s now, and they're hearing this and like, oh man, I missed my opportunity. It's like, well, no, I hope you don't hear that. I hope you hear what you're getting to there around this not sweating the small stuff, because for me, at least in my world of executive coaching, like the majority of my sessions begin with a really small thing that an executive's bringing in, that they've turned the whole mountain to molehill thing. They've brought in a molehill and they've making it out to be a mountain, and we have to talk through the fact that maybe it isn't, and that, or maybe this little small thing is actually just a representation of something much larger that everybody's ignoring right now. And so just to be able to acknowledge the importance of not sweating the small stuff, and to find that ability just to say, you know what, something that's happening right now, it's happening because it needed to happen. It's an opportunity for me to have a loss that allows me to learn from it at the same time. But from what I'm hearing as well, man, is like the sheer comfort that you've been able to create around this notion of when these things happen, they happen, we learn and we move on. Now to bring it into the present more, how easy has this been for you in this leadership role to get others to buy into that same philosophy and find that same level of comfort?
There's nothing easy about leadership. Like if you want to be a leader because you think it's fun and exciting, if you're listening, don't get into leadership. There's nothing easy about it. Now, is it fulfilling? 100%. There's a lot of things that I take away from being a leader that drives me, that motivates me. It's not easy. There's nothing easy about it. But in terms of selling vision, in terms of getting people to learn not to sweat the small stuff, unfortunately, a lot of even the leaders on my leadership team didn't go through the same experiences I did, where they learned that early on. Some of them are still learning it. And it's a day by day thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think you can't look too far down the road on lessons. You need to take them in stride as they come. And like I said earlier, reflect on them. I have leaders on my team right now that are learning it as we go because they didn't start a factory in their 20s and get slapped around.
Yep.
But it's taken a second to go, hey, this isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Right? Pick it up, move on. I had a clothier this week that, by the way, I own Baton Rouge, which is our headquarters. I own this location.
Yep.
And then I own Lafayette as well. Okay. And I'm in the middle of building additional franchise locations myself.
Okay.
And I do that for several reasons. One, it allows me to keep my ear to the ground of what's the customer feedback and interaction. What's training like for clothiers? And are they learning what they need to learn? Where are the gaps? How's the technology that we implement? And I tell you that to tell you, I literally just had a new clothier who's killing it. She's awesome. She just put 3 weeks worth of orders in and accidentally typed in the wrong measurement. They're all remakes, right? They're a very expensive lesson. And it's not me going to her and going, why did you do this? How did you screw this up? You're fired. It's, don't worry about it. I think you feel guilty enough. We don't need to talk about it. You know what happened. It was an accident. There's enough guilt. But I think part of being a leader is going, don't worry about it. You know, it's, you know what happened. Let's move on. Let's go figure it out. And I think that's just a small lesson in there's a time and place. And she had plenty of reflection on how it went down. She was probably extremely nervous to tell me because she had a pit in her stomach. But, you know, not everything is the end of the world. No. It's not that big of a deal.
No.
Let's just not let it happen again and let's move on.
Right. And that's, and you said it so well earlier. It's like, let's experience the one loss. When it becomes repetitive, that's when we really
have a problem.
The conversation changes significantly. But to your point, human emotion is whether we ever want to acknowledge it or not. And I'm a parent too. And so for me, it's like you always want to scream at your child when they do something wrong. But there's actually a world, if you just stop for a moment and look at them, you can actually see they're already they're figuring that they've done something wrong. You know, you can see the difference between, hey, this is a small thing to I know I've really screwed up and now daddy's found me in the act. And you step into that for a moment and you go, I could scream right now. I could discipline right now. But I think they've figured it out on their own. I think they know that.
Well, and my hope with that story, and the reason I even tell it, is that the lesson isn't even in it for her. I hope the lesson is in it for my leadership team. Because they see what I do. And if they can learn how I handle situations like that, hopefully they're watching, and I'm sure they are, and they're noticing things like that. I'm hoping that carries into the way that they become leaders and the way that they coach and the way that they manage. And I think that's kind of the point of that story is if you do right by others, if you treat them right, they're going to be around for a long time. And my rule when I hire, by the way, is even if you're not, I hope you learn something while you're here that you can take with you, whatever the next job is, whatever the next entrepreneurial journey is for you. And what else can you do?
Right. No, I love that sort of passive group influence that you're alluding to here, that you can get through that direct leadership. The fellow leader around you is able to see that, and it allows me to now bridge back to some of the way in which you've created support around you outside of the company and the community you've created for yourself in terms of some of these fellow leaders. I'm curious, like, before even going to what they're doing for you now and how that's helping your world, how might one who's listening to this right now go through some sort of a vetting process? Like, where did you start when it came to knowing what you needed around you? How does one start that vetting process of maybe just finding and identifying those kind of people?
It's a great question. So back to trusting my gut. I've been fortunate to hire a lot of people in my 20s, obviously. But I think now there's a few key specific things that I look for. The first one, and this is from EOS, if you're familiar with it, but it really helped me kind of hone in on who are the right people on the bus and how do I find them and how do I sell them? I think one of the things that is important for entrepreneurs is the skill of sales. And the reason for that is it's not just the product or the service that you have to sell. It's yourself. It's your vision. You got to sell your vision every freaking day if you're going to scale. Right. And that's to the team. It's the candidates that I want on my team. And how am I supposed to bring on rock stars if I'm not confident in where we're going.
Mm.
So back to the EOS point, I look for three things, and it's get it, want it, capacity to do it. Do they get it? Do they understand that job?
Mm-hmm.
Do they want the job?
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found is typically what people are best at is what they enjoy doing, and vice versa.
Yep.
So if I can touch on that by asking questions, where do you want to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you see yourself? What's your dream job? Those are some of the questions I ask.
Mm.
And I listen.
Yeah.
And I want to know what gets them excited, what lights them up. And I can sniff it out in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And then my goal is to figure out, is there a gap there? If they're a great cultural fit, if I found out they're good people and they care and they got morals and ethics,
Mm-hmm.
now it's about aligning it with that seat, the void that we have in our company.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the other way around, right? Like I have a hire right now that has been an absolute rock star for me. And I hired him for a very specific role. And as it turns out, there was a whole nother role that he has just moved into, getting the right people in the right seat.
Yeah.
Capacity is the third, by the way. It's having the time allocation to do it. And this is a hard one for my team across the country, my franchise system, because we have commissioned clothiers. They're commission only, which means capacity. A lot of these people have other jobs. It's when are you going to do this job? And if you want to get out of what you're doing currently and do this full time, I get it. You want to put your toe in the water. But the question becomes, when are you going to do it?
Yeah.
Are you going to do it in the morning? Are you disciplined enough? Are you going to do it during your lunch break? Are you going to do it after hours on the weekends? How bad do you want it?
Yeah.
And I think those are some tips and tricks that I've done. But back to the sales skill, you can't build a team of A players if you can't sell the A players. So there is a trigger within my interview process where I go, okay, I need them.
Yeah.
I need them. And now I'm going to sell them on why they should come here.
Yes.
Why they need to be a part of this company.
Yeah.
Why they want to be a part of this company.
Yeah. And we can do that in our lives too. Like that's what I'm hearing right now. Because again, speaking to the choir, very used to pitching myself, sharing my vision, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, whether it's someone that I see as a potential coach that could potentially do some work for us down the road, or whether it's just like, you know what, this is the kind of person that I know, like iron sharpens iron. I know that even if we have nothing in common from a business standpoint in terms of us ever working together, you're the kind of person that I know I want in my world, that I want in my sphere. And you've been able to, from the very brief conversations we've had prior to this, you've been able to do that outside the business too. And so how much of that very approach that you're taking inside the business are you noticing yourself using in order to create that same world for yourself outside of the business too?
Yeah. It all carries over.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no doubt about it. I found myself over the years, I think there's a reason I get hit with a lot of opportunities inside business and outside of business. And it's because no one will outwork me. Number one, you got to show up.
Yep.
And I have always, again, I know what I'm good at and I know what I suck at. I've always shown up. And that means it might be a conference that I don't want to go to. It might be a podcast that I don't want to go to. Not this one, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Come on now.
But like, we don't feel like doing stuff sometimes.
Sure.
We're humans, right? We don't feel good. We're tired. We didn't sleep last night.
Right.
It's about being disciplined.
Yep.
And the reason we are where we are today, a lot of it, is because I didn't make excuses and I would show up. And people around me, if nothing else, would say, my God, this guy is everywhere. How in the world was he in California yesterday? And now he's back at the office running a team meeting first thing this morning.
Sure.
And I took the red eye.
Yeah.
I show up.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of it. But the rest of it is you got to be prepared for the opportunity. And the preparation and creating those opportunities around you go hand in hand. But I don't know. I think that if it were easy, everyone would do it. A lot of people quit before they get to the good stuff. And there's no quit in me. I have a thing that I talk about with my team regularly, my clothiers, my Z's, my leadership team. And it's don't be a victim. I think a lot of people get sucked in. By the way, I do too, all the time.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And I'll catch myself. And if you could hear my thoughts in my head throughout the day and how often I repeat, don't be a victim. You're not a freaking victim. Suck it up.
Yeah.
Right? You're not a victim. Why are you feeling bad for yourself? Why are you, sure, you didn't sleep last night. Who freaking cares, dude? You literally have a million things you need to get done today, and don't be a victim about it.
Yeah.
Put on a good attitude and go get it done. And I think that's something I do try to preach regularly is like, don't get caught in this victimhood mentality of woe is me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a victim, right?
Yeah. We don't talk about that enough on this show. We don't. And it's good to hear the clarity and the consistency with which you're telling yourself that. And I want to make that abundantly clear to those listening, is that the opposite of that is allowing ourselves to listen to what it is our brain will naturally say. Our brain will naturally play victim.
Yep.
But we have to train the voice to tell our brain not to be victim. And that's the dance that we play all day. We can listen to the thoughts, and typically they're very victim based, or we can talk to the thoughts and we can actually start to own it a little bit more and say, I'm hearing a victim right now. Don't be the victim.
Yep.
Don't be the victim.
We like to be comfortable.
Sure.
Right? Who doesn't want air conditioning and not having to lift weights and food tastes great in Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
Like how nice is it to be able to eat fried food? And but we want to be comfortable as human beings, and that's not where you grow.
No.
The growth comes from discomfort.
Yes.
And if you can constantly be uncomfortable, that's a sign of growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where I want to go, because this is where we have a lot in common, is that you said something before there, that there was these two things, why Baton Rouge and why custom tailoring? And you very much gave us the custom tailoring part of that. When I started my business and I went around town and I went around my network and I said, I want to do executive and professional coaching. And I want people to see the value that they have in themselves. And I want to take the concepts that I've taken from sport and show that they can be utilized in high performers in the boardroom too. And I would pound the pavement and I would tell people and anyone that wanted to pick up the phone, and the consistent feedback was, why Baton Rouge? Why there? And so much where we now have in common is similar to what you were saying there. If you can sling suits around the swamps, for me, it was like, if you're telling me, if the story and the narrative that's out there is that those in this part of the world are set in their ways, they don't want to work with folks like yourself. Like, if that's what the narrative is, I want to meet that narrative and say, let me prove you wrong.
Yep.
And so I'm hearing so much of that in your story, but I am curious, like in those early days, as you're building it out here in Baton Rouge, how did you navigate that narrative, that belief maybe that was out there, that what you were providing was not in fact a service that was wanted, so to speak, in this part of the world? That was the narrative. It was, but what we've learned is it's not the truth, but it was certainly the story, right, that people were sharing.
I think part of it is proving people wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it could be done, and I had to go out and prove it. That doesn't mean it's easy. Starting a business of any kind, by the way, whether it's a franchise, you're doing it on your own, there is nothing easy about it. You're going to get punched in the face every single day.
Yeah.
I do think there's something to be said for proving people wrong.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a relationship thing too. Like, I have such great relationships with people in Baton Rouge. To be honest with you, I don't want to be anywhere else because of that. Like, my friends are here. My relationships are here. I have vendors that are here. We've got incredible partnerships that are here with all different types of businesses.
Yeah.
The casino, LaBerge Casino, LSU, the country clubs, Baton Rouge Country Club, CCL. We have tons of incredible partnerships all around town now. And for me, it's like, I don't really want to leave that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was concerned about was, how do you find talent? Because I've heard it so many times. I think it has a bad connotation with finding good talent to work for you in Baton Rouge. And I heard it so many times that as I was building up my Baton Rouge location, I'm like, oh God, man, this is going to suck. This is going to be hard. Yeah. Not true. This turned out to be not true whatsoever. In fact, I think there's a lot of advantages about building a company in Baton Rouge. In custom tailoring, what I liked is they're still competitors. Don't get me wrong. For me, it was, how do I make sure I provide such an incredible service and great value that they don't want to buy from anywhere else?
Right.
And if I can prove that somewhere like Baton Rouge, I can do it in any city.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
So it really was a learning curve for me to be able to establish what makes Pearce Bespoke different, what makes us special. And I think what we've really leaned into is getting back to customer service. How do we make it such a great product and a service behind it that no one will ever want to buy from anyone else?
Right.
And I harp this regularly to our team. I have two tests. The first one is, it's not about the first product that they buy from us. How many times do they come back to buy more? We track that because it's about delivering great service, great product, something that they get addicted to.
Yeah.
And the second piece to that is the competitive advantages. Like I really honed in on, how do I make these competitive advantages so that why would anyone ever want to go buy anywhere else, right? The white glove service, free alterations once you get your garment, it's built into the cost, saving people time, creating convenience, building confidence for people. It's not even about the product. It's about making products that make you feel good when you walk into a room. That's the mission. And what Baton Rouge has really provided for me is being able to navigate that and build it into our core values, build it into a very clear mission. And I mean, the talent that we've been able to hire in Baton Rouge has been incredible. And if anything, I mean, the cost of living in Baton Rouge in general, it makes it so that a business is much more likely to be successful because you don't have a lot of the overhead that you would have in a major city. But I got to tell you, proving people wrong is probably where all of that started.
Yes. And again, I love that you've taken us there because I don't talk about that anywhere near enough, personally. And it got me in trouble to a certain point in my life, but then it became this tool, became this strength once I knew how to hone it effectively. And I think it's okay to want to prove people wrong. I think there's this very unhealthy stigma towards it. And you can get in trouble if it is reckless and it is out of control. But it's almost the way you're describing it here, and it's where I relate to you, is it's this hidden foundation piece. It's not at the forefront. It's not like you're not walking into rooms trying to prove people wrong. But each juncture, there's this reminder of just like, I told you so. It's like that next milestone that you hit as a company. You know, again, from my own personal story, I love now shaking hands with some of these people that were so adamant, like, and you're choosing Baton Rouge to do this, and you're shaking them hand, and they're looking at you with this look of, you have definitely proven me wrong. And I look at them and I'm like, you know what? No, Baton Rouge has proven you wrong. I didn't prove you wrong. Baton Rouge proved you wrong. But so many of the points that you're making here, I think are important for anyone listening, is this notion of like, it's okay to get into something for a reason like that, as long as it's not the driving force. Like you're not waking up every day with this vendetta against the world of just like, I'm going to prove you all wrong.
For sure. 100%. And it's kind of cool to lean into now. You know, I get on these calls, I go to these conferences and expos, and they're like, where are you located? Baton Rouge. In their faces, it is just so funny to me. Because, you know, first of all, that's the last thing that they expect me to say. And that we're headquartered here is even funnier to them. But I do think that, like, you know, now that we've been fitting some of the most famous people on planet Earth, and we're getting all this publicity around Pearce Bespoke and Pearce Bespoke franchising, and all these articles talk about that we're headquartered in Baton Rouge. There's been a lot of funny spin-offs of that. So like when the world found out I fitted Barron Trump for inauguration and election day, and all these media companies started spinning that story into Barron Trump took, you know, Air Force One down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana to get fitted by his tailor Nathan Pearce. It's just hilarious to me. But Baton Rouge was in every single article that got published, that we were headquartered here and his tailor's here. And that was a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, no doubt. And I have this whole aside there about the Baton Rouge thing when you go to these events and things like that. I walk around with these lanyards that say Baton Rouge, and then I start talking, and they're like, I don't see it. No, I'm not.
I don't hear it either.
This is not. No, that's a whole nother thing. But as a British person, the word bespoke, I find that to be a fascinating choice that you made in the name, just because it isn't. In terms of society in the US, it's not a word that you traditionally would hear. You talked about the competitive advantage of what you're trying to do as a company. How much did the name play a part in distinguishing yourself, I guess?
A good bit. So for those who don't know who are listening, bespoke means one-off, made one at a time, or custom, bespoken for. And I get asked all the time, are you Pearce Bespoke? And I'm like, okay, I'm Pearce. Bespoke is not my name. But it is a cool conversation starter.
No doubt.
And
absolutely.
There's a lot more people than you realize that in the US do know what the word means. But it's a great conversation starter. And I do think the other side of it, and I've heard this a lot, you don't want to name a company after yourself. And I think the reason I went that route was it was a little different for me. I knew that if I were going to scale this business and we were eventually going to have tens of thousands of clothiers around the country and hopefully thousands of franchise owners around the world, that one thing was going to keep me grounded. And it was going to be making sure that if we were going to deliver a product with my name on it, that it meant something.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean it was my style, but it did mean that the service, the quality, the fabrics, the options, everything that we represent was delivered in a way that I would want it to be delivered. And I still make that point all the time. You better not deliver crap, because my name is all over that thing.
Right.
And it means something. And I do think it makes me evaluate training. How are we training people? It makes me evaluate our vendors, our partnerships with our tailor shops and our fabric mills. Is this something that I would want my name on? And I do think the side step from that is, we had to decide early on when we built the company, is this going to be the Nathan Pearce brand, or is this going to be a brand for everyone?
Yeah.
And there's a very distinct difference between the two. The Nathan Pearce brand would have extremely wide old school lapels, tailored pants with pleats and cuffs, and bringing back this old school 1940s and 50s style details, right? That's not for everybody.
No.
And the problem with that would be, we'd have a market about this big that would want to buy from us.
Yeah.
So my concept evolved to, the Pearce Bespoke brand represents great quality, affordability, and a great service, white glove concierge to back it up.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I want my franchisees to bring in teams from all different walks of life. I want them to bring in different races, different religions, different neighborhoods, because we sell to everyone. We make custom clothing that's affordable to all races and all religions, and big and tall and small. And that's what custom's about.
Sure.
It's being able to fit anybody, and the tape measure doesn't lie. And so we had to make that call early on. And the route that we went was, if you want to have a successful franchise, you need to hire people from all different walks of life, because that's how you dominate the market.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the greatest salesman to certain demographics. I can't relate to them. But if you can bring on a salesperson from that walk of life that can tap into that specific demographic, you can dominate a territory pretty quickly.
Yeah. We're going to go back to that word dominate in a second, but because for me, it just speaks volumes. It's so intentional. It's so clear. But one area that I really want to move to is the clarity and the conviction that you speak with when it comes to the business and it comes to your journey to this point. How has that rolled into the personal side of Nathan Pearce? Like when you started, you were a solo guy, no woman in the life, no kids in the life. Now it's a complete 180 from that. How have you navigated that part? How do you even possibly take some of this very mindset that you have towards the business world into that personal side of your life?
So I'll tell you this, I still travel a good bit. I think it's just part of the job.
Yeah.
When I used to travel, and I've traveled literally since college for every job I've ever owned, every business I've ever owned. When I first did it, I would stay the night. I'd go explore. I'd go to restaurants and bars and try the new cities and find new things. So cool. Really grateful I got to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I have two girls that are under 2.5 years old. One's 8 months, one's 2.5. When I tell you, I will fly across the country, crack of dawn, first thing in the morning, land, go to a meeting, and I'm catching a flight, and I'll be back by that evening for lunch, for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, that's my new travel schedule. And my assistant knows, it's like, I'm not spending the night. If I don't have to spend the night, I'm not spending the night.
Yeah.
I don't explore. I go to the meeting, what I'm there to do, and I get back to my girls.
Yeah.
And that's a big shift, right? It's get in, get out, get back. I want to spend as much time with them as I possibly can, because I know this phase of life with the age that my girls are at, it doesn't last long. So not taking that for granted has been a big shift for me. But I also think that, hopefully I'm teaching hopefully my wife, hopefully my kids work ethic and why it's important. And at the end of the day, opportunities aren't created when I'm at the house. There's importance in spending as much quality time with them as I possibly can. But when dad's got to go to work, dad's got to go to work. Sure. And I think that there's the learning, we talked about, hopefully my leaders are seeing how I'm leading, and hopefully they're learning from that. But the same goes for personal life. Like I'm hoping that my wife and my kids see work ethic, and I hope that we're raising them to have a similar work ethic to where they understand the importance of hard work, and the importance of finding what you're passionate about, and finding your purpose, and driving towards where you want to go and not settling. But hopefully that answers
it. Well, 100% answers the question, but the insight there, man, it's so clear, is that the comfort that you have with taking those principles that are working in the business world and bringing them into the household. And I think there's that assumption out there that, leave work at the office. And I think when we put it that way, we're actually almost encouraging like a version of ourselves to stay out of the house too. And I'm hearing a lot of comfort that you have with being consistent across all aspects of your life, and to say, hey, you know what, there's a workhorse here that my girls deserve to meet and be around. I'm sure there's silly daddy, I'm sure there's playful daddy, all this kind of stuff, all those different things. However, the world that we've created and are creating for them, that's come from a version of me that why should I prevent them from seeing who that person is, right?
Yeah. I think the other side of that too is you don't want to hide it. You want them to see it. And for the listeners that haven't been married or found your spouse yet, you hear this time and time again if you read a lot and you listen to these entrepreneurial podcasts. The single most important decision you'll ever make in your entire life is your spouse, who you choose to marry and build a life with. And I'm so lucky and fortunate to have a wife that supports my work, my travel, my entrepreneurial drive. And with that comes a burden and a lot of responsibility, right? Like it also means that my phone is ringing while I'm home, while I'm on vacation. I'm doing founder calls and deep dives and coaching calls, and the work doesn't necessarily stop. It's important to unplug. But all the biggest fires in the entire organization flow straight up to the top. And a lot of times that means they need me. They need me as soon as they call. I have a wife that gets that. And in order for you to be able to build something major, build something big, you've got to be willing to put in the work to do it. And I'm very fortunate that I have a wife that supports it, understands it. I think the other part to that too is she knows I wouldn't be complete without it. It would hold me back, and there would be a piece of me missing. Like this is what I love.
And that, I'm so glad you even wrapped that point up with that sentiment, is whether it be a spouse, whether it be the kind of people that you keep around you as your closest friends, family, whatever it may be. I think being able to support your decision making based upon a clear passion makes it so much easier for them to then understand the commitment, and to go back now to this word of dominate, to have a dominating mindset towards the work that you're doing. People need to understand why, right? I mean, there's no to have that kind of approach in what you're doing, to try to dominate the market. That's a very that's a difficult set of behaviors for someone to understand watching from the outside in, if they don't understand why, if they don't understand why it matters to you. So I want to ask you that as we start to wrap up. Why do you feel the need to dominate the market as you speak to? Because I think that sentiment is going to be, I'm just interested to hear, why are you so adamant about that?
I think the first component to this question is legacy. And it's not with my name being on the label and the brand and all that. I think legacy meaning I want to build something that makes a difference. So one of the things that we haven't talked about is I have a charity campaign that we've kind of been building and getting momentum with called For Good Measure.
Awesome.
And what we've really done with it is we want to set out to prove that custom clothing makes a difference. And it can change people's lives. So the whole charity campaign is built around, and I'm going to kind of use this platform as a good opportunity for any listeners to be able to nominate people that they know that would be great candidates for this. But the concept of it, For Good Measure, is people can nominate people that deserve to catch a break. Some people just deserve to catch a break in life. And it might be someone that's been fired and they need to go back into job interviews. And it might be someone that just came back from the military tour and they need to get acclimated and do job interviews. It might be the homeless guy that's dying to get back into the workforce. It might be the single dad. It might be the teacher that can't afford it. But there's a million people out there that deserve to feel good, to get some confidence going again. And the whole point of For Good Measure is so that we can kind of come in and donate some custom clothing and the experience of it, not just the clothing, but the feeling of getting measured and feeling important and dialing it in just for you goes a long way. We've done handicap nominees. We've done a guy lost his entire everything he owns in a house fire, all of his clothes, all of his assets, and he had to start all over again. So we donated a $2,000 custom clothing package for him to kind of kickstart it. And it was good timing because he had a big award ceremony that he won an award for and got to wear the custom suit that we made him.
That's awesome.
But I think that there's just there's a bigger impact that we can leave, bigger than the for-profit attitude of selling custom clothing and making money. And it's that we think we can change people's lives. And that plays into the legacy aspect is it's bigger than just the business side. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to dominate the business aspect too. But my dream would be to have all of our franchise locations and sales reps, clothiers, managers participating in For Good Measure in all of their own individual communities and being able to leave an impact on all their communities as well. That's a big drive for me right now. But in terms of business, it goes back to my kids, my family, being able to leave a legacy behind of whether they want to be a part of this business or not, completely irrelevant. But I think we're building something here that's going to last a really, really long time. And my goal is to make sure we have the right people in place to do it. And hopefully that I can churn out leaders in the organization, teach them to be leaders, build new leaders. And my rule is this in every business I've ever started. In the manufacturing business, the bottom of the barrel, the lowest employee on the totem pole was what we call a bundle boy. And the bundle boy would move the bundles of clothing from sewer to sewer. And my rule was even the bundle boy could become a manager. Everyone has something to work towards. A clothier doesn't have to just be a clothier. My hope is that they can. Some people are just good at sales. They don't want to manage people. But my goal is for clothiers to be able to have the opportunity, if they want to work their way up to a franchisee. And managers be able to work their way up to multi-unit franchisees, and franchisees work their way up to multiple territories. And that's purpose. That's something to work towards. That's goals and aspirations. And no one has to settle. My hope is to be able to build leaders within the organization that can lead, that can make a difference in people's lives.
No one has to settle. I want people to hear that sentiment. Because settling is a choice, and this is not a tone of judgment. Sometimes you get to where you want to get to in life, and you are comfortable right there.
You're content.
Good for you. The interesting part about that is we don't really recruit those listeners to that's just kind of the nature of the show. And so while I like to just respectfully acknowledge that, at the same time, you're probably not listening on tips how to settle,
15 minutes ago.
Right. So, so the beauty of that sentiment is that you don't have to. So when you do find yourself in these moments where you're experiencing loss, you're experiencing failures, don't succumb to those, because that would be settling.
They don't define you.
No, they don't define you. Nathan, I knew this would be a blast. I don't know where that hour went, but it went somewhere, and I know we created some awesome value during that time. Before I let you go, you've told us all about For Good Measure already, and I will be able to add links to where we can learn more about that in the show notes. But what else do we need to know? Where else can we learn more about Pearce Bespoke, and obviously follow you maybe even as well in the process?
Yeah. So pearcebespoke.com is the website you can go to. You can obviously follow us on all forms of social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Shout out to my new social media coordinator, Rumor from LSU.
Got some good photos.
Awesome, dude. I'm super excited about her.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can follow us on social media. I'll say this and kind of wrap up with this.
Yeah.
And I say this a lot, but people ask me what I look for when we're hiring and when we're bringing on franchisees. And I say the same thing every time. You got to be able to look the part. Means Farmer Joe could be the greatest salesman of all time.
Yeah.
But if he shows up in overalls, he's going to have a hard time in this space.
Sure.
Right. But the second thing is hunger. If you're not hungry, the rest of it doesn't matter.
No.
If you're not hungry and motivated and driven, I can teach anyone how to measure.
Yeah.
I can teach most people how to run a business.
Yeah.
I can't teach hunger, drive, motivation. That's what I look for. And if I have that, the rest is gold.
The rest is gold. I love it. Well, I came dressed the part today, man. I hope you noticed.
Hey.
I'm wearing a Pearce Bespoke shirt today. It's one of 5 that I now own. So you can, whatever that data is that you're tracking, like I am a recurring customer
Awesome.
at this point. I'm already looking at my suits and thinking, might be time to step my game up on the stage next time I'm doing a keynote. So I could be in touch pretty soon. But Nathan, man, this has been a blast. I appreciate your time, the generosity of insight, and just best of luck with everything, brother.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, my thanks again to Nathan for joining us on today's episode. And I really want to hammer home this idea of trusting your gut. You'll notice there that our gut is the thing that we're trying to build trust in, yes, but the art of trusting is a behavior. That's what we can control. That's where the work begins. And so much of what Nathan's story presents to us is this willingness not only to learn and to learn from our losses, but if we're going to build trust in our intuition, which is a nicer way of maybe just saying our gut, what we need to at some point acknowledge is that there's some work to do into building the trust. How often do we want to start listening to our gut? When do we want to maybe take an action or two towards what our gut is telling us to do? If all we're ever doing is squashing that intuition and not really taking action, how on earth can we ever build trust in our gut? So take the time to start thinking about where you're maybe preventing yourself from building that greater trust in your intuition, in your instinct, in your gut. And if you can become slightly more aware of how you are or are not doing that, then I assure you in time, that trust is going to strengthen, and the likelihood of you taking the odd risk and a bigger step from time to time, that's going to start to become more consistent as well. So again, my thanks to Nathan for joining us on the show. And as always, my thanks to you for taking the time to join us. Make sure that you are subscribing to the show. Make sure you're taking the time to review the show. And hey, don't be selfish and keep this all to yourself. Make sure you're sharing this with at least a person or two in your world that you know can benefit from incredible insight, such as the ones that Nathan has shared with us here today. Best of luck with anything and everything going on in your world. And I look forward to doing this with you again very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.